Mars Plumont is one of the several people investigators want to talk to and that he sees not being called a suspect at this time. Plumont has
Hi, my name's Foshin. I'm with AmericanCivilDebate.com. Today I have Corey.
Hey.
I have Eddie.
Hello.
And I have Sherry.
How you doing?
Today we're going to talk about a couple things. Today we're going to start with Post, and then we're going to go to the Biden or Obamagate, and then we're going to go to we're going to say the Wisconsin Supreme Court, how they overturned the Democratic governor there for locking people down. So here we are.
No, let's make sure to remind everybody and thank them for coming to the Facebook.
Sorry about that, guys.
Right? Thank
Yes.
you guys for tuning in.
He had one job.
Right.
He had one job.
Right. That we just went over, didn't we? Just
Absolutely.
talked about it. Just told you. And be sure to check out the website. As you guys can see, we want to give a special shout out to Designs by MM. Melissa for hooking us up on the website, making sure everything's looking nice, clean, and crisp. We love you, girl.
And she's not a bad-looking lady. We'll give you her number.
I wasn't. No, we won't.
I'm joking. I'm sorry. By the way, happy birthday to Melissa's boyfriend.
And happy Mother's Day. Her first Mother's Day was this Sunday.
I forgot about that, too.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to all those other mothers. All those other mothers. Yeah, hopefully you guys had a good Sunday under lockdown, quarantine, and you had to spend it with your childrens like you have all week.
Nice.
But on Sunday, you weren't a teacher.
That's nice. So, how's your week?
My week's been pretty good. It's been busy.
And how about you, Eddie?
Just busy at the welfare office.
And how about you, Corey?
It's been busy, making sure all of this is up and running. News has been crazy between COVID and, I mean, they just don't stop on the politics side.
It's just crazy. It's like 24/7. It's like it goes so quickly sometimes. You're like, wow. Seriously.
Yeah.
So,
Once again, let's remind our listeners that we do have the ability to take calls now on the show, and we're happy to announce that. So write down that number there. It's 239-313-0742. We'll be taking some calls. We'd like to call in, hear your opinion. I don't care where you are in the country, even if what we're talking about doesn't even directly apply to you. But today it's going to be hot. I mean, what do we got? Wisconsin, New York, Trump, Biden, Obama, like it's insane.
and that's just the way the news runs too, isn't it? It's crazy out there on both sides. So here we are. We're going to our first post.
We are. We had some successful week in the post there. Sherry, go ahead and read me that post, please.
All right. It's who here thinks Obama's fingerprints are all over the Russian hoax?
It's not paying attention.
Right, at all.
That's okay.
Unless your middle name is Sherry. I don't know.
I don't know.
Did I have the name wrong?
Yeah,
Sherry's your
no.
name.
I heard
That's right.
Sherry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard my name. My ear perked
Maybe
up
he-
just a little bit.
I'm
Right.
sorry, folks.
Maybe he was
Please forgive
covering
me.
for me. I called you a different girl, and he was covering for me like, oh, yeah, that's my middle name. I'm going to read it.
Maybe he wants to be Sherry.
Ooh, it's 2020. That
I
is
know.
legal.
I know.
Is that why you moved her by you, bro?
Look,
Thank you, my little nutcracker. Read the post.
All
So, who here thinks Obama's fingerprints are all over Russian hoax? And finds a court abuse and we lost the slide there.
Oh, did ya?
There we go. It changed too quick. And court abuse and should be arrested along with other Democrats who conspired a coup against President Trump. When all the facts come out, or should that say, should all the facts come out?
When all the
When all the facts come
when
out.
all the facts come out. When it all comes out.
She's a blonde, everybody, so don't
That-
worry about it.
I'm only half blonde this week. All of the hair salons have been closed for 2 months.
Excuses. You
I
know,
know, what's your take on it, Sherry?
Well, I don't like to jump to conclusions, and I don't like to make knee-jerk decisions, and that's just how I feel about a lot of things. I always encourage more and more information as much as I can possibly get. Finn, I'd like to hear information from more than just one side, so then I can ultimately make a decision. That's how I generally feel when it comes to these types of items that we discuss. Do I think that there's something that went on there? Yes, I do. Do I think that all of the information that is currently available to us is accurate? No, I don't.
What about you, Eddie?
Well, first and foremost, politicians being held accountable for stuff and getting arrested. What country are we talking about?
Right, that's like what Sean here is saying. I think that's.
But the whole Russian fiasco is just an unnecessary witch hunt because the Democrats don't seem to have answers, and rather than.
Do you think they're trying to cover this up, though? I mean, honestly, do you think Democrats are coming back and trying to cover it up with all the investigations and all that?
Probably.
What do you think?
I think it's a combination.
Combination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Political. Here I go with my political answers.
Right. I'm gonna throw a wrench in it. I really think at this point it's everybody's to blame, right? So I think it's really just the machine that's against Trump, because how fast and I think it's kind of sad how fast Republicans forgot that before he was the main runner, they hated him.
Yeah.
Hated him.
But do you think he
on both sides, people were funneling trash on Trump. So I think it's really ironic that, now all of a sudden there's these big Republican supporters when he should have gave both sides the finger as soon as he went and said, well, I'm going to actually be the independent president that I actually am. He just went ahead and he kind of gave them the pretense to it that, I'm going to run as a Republican, and they didn't like him. They called him an independent.
But do you think he's taught the Republicans how to fight back against the liberalism that's gone on for the last 16, 17 years?
I think he's laid down the blueprint for it. I've never seen anybody fight back as well as he has.
And win, though. And he keeps winning, though. It's like unbelievable. What do you think, Sherry?
Yeah, he came right out. He said, I'm sick of the, right at the beginning, no more political correctness.
Yeah.
And that really did grip our country, though. Well, so Sean McLaughlin, he said, why does the threat of doing something to Obama and Hillary always come up? By now, everybody in the world knows nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
I mean, seriously.
Right, and Joe said Republicans are too weak to arrest anyone but the pawns.
That's the God's honest truth right there. You're right. That's one of the best ones that just came up.
Like both sides were playing the bullshit in the beginning, and really a lot of this now is the wave from the current that they put in the water before. Right now, we're seeing that ripple effect in the pond, and they were all throwing rocks in the beginning.
Do you think they're playing both sides? I mean, honestly, the gamesmanship. It's like it's always been gamesmanship, right? I mean, it's like that's what
that's just what politicians do. They always play both sides. I know, like there's politicians that when their state is swinging different colors, they'll go from Republican to Democrat, and Democrats will switch from I've been a Democrat for 30 years, but I want another term, so I'm switching to Republican. And if I remember correctly, Donald Trump.
He was a Democrat.
He was a Democrat
He
in
Registered
2000.
Democrat.
For many years.
I think Rand Paul is about the only solid, true Republican that has never swayed. He's always crazy.
Did you watch him on the show the other night? Did you watch him on the Fox and Friends and stuff?
I didn't see him on Fox and Friends.
He laid it out, and you know what? He's more libertarian than a lot of the independent. I think libertarians are like that. I think they're more independent.
I like his son.
Which one?
Rand Paul's son. Can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Well,
Paul Jr.
No.
You call him Junior.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
Little.
He's
Right.
an optometrist.
Senior and little.
Rand Paul.
but
Oh,
you
he's
got
an
Rand Paul, and you
optometrist.
got what's his father's name?
Rand Paul. They're both in politics.
Yeah.
I can't remember the son's name. He got bullied.
That is Rand Paul.
It is.
Rand Paul, and then
Oh,
the father's
it's
name
Ron.
is
Is
It was Ron Paul.
My
Ron
bad.
Paul. There you go.
Right.
No, see, no worries.
So let's jump on to some other comments. I didn't really like Fred's, but somebody tell me what an Obama is. What is an Obama?
An Obama promise, I guess.
Oh, goodness.
No, he said Obamas are the biggest traitors in the U.S. history.
Ah, he's talking about the Democrats that voted for the
Right, that's
for
what I
Trump
kind of
right
thought
there.
about. And so where I take some issue with this is one, the primary ones that got Obama into office was the young vote. At the same time, Obama oversaw one of the largest military enlistment era in the last 20 years.
Wow.
Since the 70s, and it is partly bleed over from Bush, right? Bush had a big uptick. It went down after Desert Storm, and then it upticked again in the late 90s into 2000s, and had a nice little staircase if you look at the rate of enlistments. But Obama held pretty solid military enlistment numbers. So for you to
Yeah.
throw a word around traitors to the U.S.,
Obama
that
dropped
part-
a lot of bombs.
Yeah.
He destroyed Libya.
Right.
He had Gaddafi killed and destabilized that country.
Well, let's look at the whole Middle East as destabilized.
I mean, all of-
if you
right.
really think
He-
about it, it's like
And I'm not saying he's great for any of those things. I'm just saying that, to call a bunch of Obama supporters traitors to the U.S. at the same time that he had one of the largest enlistment numbers, you're calling a whole lot of soldiers traitors.
I feel the refugee problem that Europe has with all the people funneling out of the Middle East and Africa is because he destabilized
That is true.
region.
Iran is a big one that we didn't do enough about before when we could have.
that is so
And-
very true. What do you think, Sherry?
Absolutely. Pulled out way too soon.
All right.
But I mean, they were sending kids home
Yeah,
left and right in body bags. You almost have
Or with
no-
one leg
they
or one
defe-
arm.
they
and stuff.
defeated Al Qaeda and the Taliban, and now we have ISIS.
That is true.
I mean, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I mean, technically, we trained Bin Laden.
Yeah,
The CIA,
They have our equipment.
Yeah,
right?
Pardon me for jumping in. We
No,
left it
you're-
there.
you're
They
good,
have
yeah.
it. We
Right.
trained them on it.
Right.
They are now in a very good position to be very strong.
Right.
when
We
need be.
they're using the guns that we gave them
Exactly.
in the 80s.
right. We trained Bin Laden to disrupt that economy and that leadership, to basically start a local civil war. Like, we literally trained him to do that. And I'll go so far as to say that we specifically did that and had no problem with him having an issue till he decided to get heroin out of his country. That's when we had an issue with Bin Laden.
And that's what Afghanistan's always been famous for. Is
World's
the poppy
largest
seed, the poppy
heroin
seeds.
farms, and we're protecting them. All right, let's get ready to jump over. Let's go to this next post.
All right. Who here thinks that it's a bad idea to give illegal stimulus checks from Corona using our tax dollars? Is this why Democrat states are going bankrupt? Well, first and foremost, I believe you should only be getting a stimulus if you file taxes.
Right, I don't think it's actually true, but
I,
is it?
I'm not
Well,
sure.
the state of California and the state of New York are trying to be able to give illegal immigrants money. Aside with the stimulus coming out, like we were talking about, what we're going to talk about in a little while.
Right,
We'll go down
Yeah,
that
you know,
rabbit hole in a minute.
Right.
here's my theory. I believe that
The
the
hero bill.
the Democrats, they want to give the stimulus to illegals, and then at some point the illegals have the ability to vote, and they'll remember the favor that the Democrats had given to them. You know, the entire illegal immigration thing is just flooded by votes, you know, and just getting poor people in so they can ask for government benefits so that they'll vote for a larger government,
Right.
you know.
But But how many of those people left from there because they didn't want to have that same kind of government, and then they come over here, and then here's the government saying,
Well,
"Here you go."
here's the thing. That's why there's so much illegal immigration, because they're giving out $1,200. You make it to America. You know what I'm saying?
And we'll feed your family.
Yeah,
we'll
we
take
had
care of
illegal
everything.
immigration before they were giving out free money.
You know, luckily I'm not in charge. You know, here's the thing. With illegal immigration,
Hold on, I need to use a mute button here in a minute.
it's one of those issues that has just been kicked down the can for years and years and years. All right, people always say Donald Trump, he hates illegal immigrants, blah blah blah. If I remember correctly, he made his millions and billions of dollars on hotels, golf courses, and construction. 3 industries that cannot survive without illegal immigrants. You know, I feel like the whole illegal immigration is just a talking point. You know, if you really want to get rid of them, just do what they do in Japan and China.
What do they do?
What they do is they make it impossible for you to live. If you show up to Japan and you don't have, and you're not supposed to be there, you can't open a bank account. You cannot lease an apartment. You can't enter contracts. And the Japanese, they have I have a friend who lived in Japan. They have like a special secret service, like an FBI, CIA, but basically they're like an immigration service.
So,
and what
ICE.
they do,
We have one too. It's called ICE.
what they do is like when your
babysit.
your allotted time is up, they find you, and they ask you, all right, you've been here, you've stayed your 6 months, it's time for you to leave. Time for you to get out.
Yeah, ICE used to do that though, and that's really actually what brought up this whole like sanctuary city type thing because
Exactly.
states ordered
And rights.
sheriffs to prevent federal organizations from going and doing that, right? U.S. Marshals and ICE were specifically used for those exact things to round things up from a federal standpoint and deal with that. And then the trade-off was states would allow ICE to open up offices locally inside of their communities, which I don't agree in that in any way, shape, or form, that part of it. Now, you run around and you're a U.S. federal marshal and you're grabbing people, I don't have no problem with that whatsoever.
I actually have a question. Open question. What is the purpose of a sanctuary city?
I don't. On that note, we could like take a caller.
Let me Google
Does
that.
somebody,
Let
does
me
some-
Google that.
somebody out there listening, do they know what actually is a sanctuary city? And not your random personal opinion. Who out there actually knows?
Like,
What
there should be sanctuary? All right, so if you're an illegal, you're breaking the law because you're here illegally. So are there sanctuaries like cities for other crimes? Like, if I robbed a bank, can I just go to sanctuary city there because I broke the law again?
Rob the bank sanctuary city.
I don't know.
Put the house on the
Florida
market,
is
we're
a
moving.
sanctuary state for quite a bit of type of people.
Yes, and Miami, and
Yeah.
West Palm Beach, and Orlando, and Tampa Bay.
I'll tell you, since I work at the welfare office, I'll tell you a fun story. Well, not a fun, but an interesting fact. So, if you come here from, Mexico or South America, and you don't have any documentation, and you come here, you're considered a non-immigrant, and you're not eligible for food stamps and Medicaid.
Wow.
Only for emergency services. But if-
Everybody says the opposite of that, right? Go ahead.
I'll dive into that in a moment. But if you come here from Cuba or Haiti with no paperwork, you're eligible. You see, if you come here from...
Wait a minute.
Hang on. If you come here from Mexico, you're a non-immigrant. If you come here from Cuba or Haiti, you're an asylum seeker. So,
Oh, so there's.
here, pro tip for everybody out there that's got an illegal friend trying to get in the country. If they're coming here from Mexico or South America or whatever, when they get to the customs agent, just say that they're from Cuba. There's no proof. We just take your word for it. They just take your word for it. Just say, yeah, I'm from Cuba.
What are Haitians running from?
The same.
They mad at the Clintons still?
I don't know.
Right, like
I-
they got a World Health Organization like big old huge 200,000 square foot facility built in their country. Free food, free rice.
There's more free stuff here.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'm just saying for somebody to be an asylum seeker, I thought
But-
you had to be like from Iran, like we talked about.
Yeah. But that's just a fun fact. So if you come here from Cuba, no
what about
questions
like
asked.
Somalians and people like
No.
that?
Well, yes, Somalians.
I mean,
Somalia,
hold on. Here's the reason I'm asking that. Like up in Michigan and Minnesota,
Yeah,
and Obama was taking a lot of those people and sending them up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was a blue state.
Somalians?
Somalians.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah. So if you ever meet somebody that hates government so much and just hates government, hates police, hates structure, send them, go live in Somalia. They don't have any government there.
It's almost like Vietnam, where
No, it's more like Mad Max.
No, we had a friend.
huh?
We had a friend go to Vietnam, and he put money into an account. And one day he went to go get some money out, and they're like, "You have no money. You don't even have a bank account here." And he's like,
You know what? I have a similar story. I have a friend. His parents had wired money to Colombia, and the county or the region where they sent the money, the bank stole the money.
Wow.
They took them, and there's nothing they can do because that
Wow.
region is corrupt.
I believe that. And Colombia, like, come on, it's Colombia. All right, let's jump in here to Lane. He basically says, I don't think it'll matter. The corporation. Shout out to you, Lane. We're
still doing the show without you.
Happy to see you. Sad to see you go, I guess is what we'd say.
He moved back to Michigan. I'm trying to figure that one out.
Sarah called him a big corporate hater. She said, "In the jealousy that you don't own a big business, hater." That's what Sarah Lynn called Lane. Lane went on to talk about how they exploit the people. If I owned a big company, I would pay my workers enough to live comfortably.
Well, he has some other ones. But
You
we
guys
won't-
check
we
the
won't-
end of that comment. I'm not going to read it over the air just because it's not, but it's still funny.
We don't want the FCC coming down here
Right.
and like knocking us off here.
Facebook.
I can't even see it.
He called somebody
Point at it.
we'll say a
The sea
chicken
sucker,
a
the sea
chicken
sucker.
sucker.
Yes.
A chicken sucker. The
Whatever that is, everybody.
Right. Bob says, well, it isn't giving illegals our tax dollars to support them. In fact, encourage them to stay. I don't know about that one. I don't know why we're encouraging illegals.
Well, if they're giving them free money,
To
I mean, for a
stay.
long time.
But why would we want to do that? I don't
Because
understand.
if they stay, they'll have children, and their children will vote democratically.
Oh, is that what Bob is looking for? I didn't know.
That's basically, if you really look at it, that's the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to touch real fast on David. He said, well, people, the way I see it, we have technology that we can put these bills online for people to read. Long story short, blah, blah, blah. So we've briefly mentioned it. The civil rights organization that my wife owns, the Rise Up Now, that's specifically what they do. If you look at this chart, like she sits and they search all the bills that are going into Congress and things like that, and they look them up and they give you, the HR, the bill, a brief description of what the bill is about, and them as an organization, if it's something that they like agree with, some of them are support. At least for us here in Florida, she writes what representative has co-signed that bill, and it also has the link in where you can see those bills. But you see, like, hypocrisy, new standards, it might have economic impact, and they basically rate it and review it the way they see it. But you see there, it'll have the link at congress.gov. Bill 116, blah, 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 blah. So there are organizations out there. What was his name, Bob or Bill? Bill or Bob? Let me look. What was his name? Oh, it's David. Sorry. David, yeah, they have those out there for you to research maybe a little further. At least somebody is finding the information for you to look into. And it's still up to you and on your own as an American citizen to find out who you agree with, who you don't agree with, and hold those governments accountable. So I guess the other part that kind of leads me into personally is people need to learn. Government starts at your city level. You need to know who your city council people are, your mayor, and go to those meetings and listen to them. There's always public input. There'll be first like open input and then public input. You can either speak on whatever the agenda is first, and then there's another one that most places give you like 3 minutes to speak, and they have to listen to you for those 3 minutes. It doesn't matter what I've seen people read off the Bill of Rights inside of a city for 3 minutes. They're just going to waste that person's time to get that point across that, look, this is the Bill of Rights.
But how many people go back, like when most people go to the voting booth and you're looking at it, all you're looking at is the General Assembly. You're looking at Congress, you're looking at Senate, you're looking at all the other little things. How many people really go in there to vote for the legislation for their state? They're
Right,
looking
that's
at,
the problem. It's all party. They got to start getting.
Thank you so
getting
much.
Rid of
See,
that.
and that is so
That's
so
where the
true.
dollars were spent at that level.
It's by design.
Right.
Yes, by design.
For instance, like the part on the ballot where it says which judge would you like to be sworn in? I don't know who the judges are in this
How
area.
many people go there and research that judge and what kind of cases he's right?
But I side with this party, so therefore,
Right.
and that's how it works.
Isn't that bad though? Because anybody can be bought off by money
For
from
sure,
politics.
and especially with judges, their party affiliation should not have anything to do with their ballot line. Like that should not be on their ballot line.
But that's supposed to be the
Of
law.
what
It's
party
a
they
law,
are.
though. That's what they judge.
Look at the Supreme Court.
That's how they do it.
Like it's always a death watch. Oh, is Ruth Jim Ginsburg? She's sick and she's in the hospital. Is she gonna go? You know.
I don't know. People, get out there. You got to make these choices, right? Life is getting difficult. It is. Things are getting complex. We live in a time that it's tough. It is. What's right and what's wrong, and the amount of diversity in our country is so hard.
It is. And you know what? If you look down the line, you'll find all the way back to schools even are what make that decision. Ultimately, our judges, our lawyers are going to lean on the Democratic side solely because they're educated in those universities and colleges that believe
Right.
that way.
And the Democratic Party inherently, over the years, is okay with giving them more power.
And that's the weird thing. And like, you look at conservatives and you look at Democrats, and conservatives are supposed to be about what? Small government, limited amount of government. And
Allegedly.
Well, and then Democrats, they used to be the same way, except for you had the unions. I think that was a big killer back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I'm sorry. And then you look at the unions, and the unions started getting greedy. And, I mean, how many people could actually go out there and afford? I mean, construction companies got to make money. Everybody's got to make money. And everybody used to say, well, the unions are bad now. So now the conservatives against the unions. You know what I mean? And you talk to a lot of union people, and a lot of union people are like, man, they helped me out.
Well, look what happened when we got rid of the unions. Production went up, but wages went stagnated. Exactly. Unfortunately, I guess the unions were helping the people at the time, but we don't, like, I don't know, like what is the line of greed? Is asking for a livable salary, is that greedy?
No.
No, Lane's argument there, I really have to agree with, like, his points about that kind of stuff. They continue to make more money, and it is crazy whenever they do make that comparison, right, of profit and economy, that amount of money that companies make and what the median wage growth. When you look at those charts, it's insane to see that, being a million, like you talked about before, right? Foshin feels that the middle class is actually the millionaire. It's not the sub-millionaire. And it is actually really, really true when you stop and think. Being a millionaire is nothing currently.
No, not today.
People, whatever, through opportunity. Most of it comes through opportunity, right? It's they're not sitting by themselves and coming up with a
But you're looking at like
scheme.
people that are making let's just say between 550,000 up to $10 million.
Must be nice.
But no, but that's still that's basically what I was saying about.
They
the
can
middle
still go
class.
broke, right? So like that's to what you're. They don't have that long money, right? We had the off-air discussion before about profit or like the whole restitution idea, and how money matters. You can have 10 million, and that might guarantee success for your child. But
Right.
that doesn't guarantee success for your grandkids.
No.
You need to be a billionaire to have that third generation of wealth locked in. And the people that have that are dying.
But think about this: you look at like the way the billionaires are. What do we got? We got over 575 billionaires in the world, right? Close to.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Are more billionaires a good thing or a bad thing? Because the more billionaires you have, the less money you have in circulation.
I just
that's
think
a good- that's
I
a
think in
good-
a way, yeah. The more they are, it starts to wash it out, right? Like it never made sense to me when you look at exchange rates, like a peso, that like a soda cost me 50,000 pesos. Like, why don't you guys just change your currency and pay $1 for the soda? Like, like 1 peso is the soda. Like I don't like in a way what you're saying that would create the same thing in our market.
But
That
you're a
we'd have
travel
all
agent,
these billionaires.
Sherry, so tell us
Oh,
about
yeah.
that.
And what is the question?
Oh, there isn't a question. There's not a question.
What we're saying is like
we're
when
throwing
when
shit
you
at a
have-
wall.
I know. You lost me between the three of you. I was
Yeah.
still stuck on the billionaire, and I was processing that business and that business flow.
She
in
was
my
dreaming
mind.
about a billionaire.
I was dreaming about if there's any billionaires out there. Hey,
See, only women do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the point is, you're a travel agent, so you're taking in like people are going to Jamaica, they're going all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when they have money, and you got to sit there and you got to tell them the exchange rate and all that, right?
No, you don't know anything about the travel business.
I'm talking about you do that.
No.
She doesn't do currencies.
No, but we will advise them where they can make those changes happen.
Right.
Currency
that's not
exchange
her.
rate changes daily, and in some cases, minute
By the minute, yeah.
So it is whatever it is, and we will advise people.
Apparently, you don't watch the stock market.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
No, that was a good question.
Where's
though,
your
Felicia.
retirement?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Right
in
here,
this
we're talking
website.
about it.
We're on it right now.
But you're absolutely right. There are some cases where you can make out with an exchange by visiting some countries,
Yep.
and there are some places you could go where you don't make out as well. And I'm not just talking about its value being less or more. I'm talking about in some cases you can leave when the value is less and come back when the value is more, and actually
Well, remember,
do an
Canada-
exchange and
Right.
make some more.
Well, Canada
money.
did that when they came down here when Obama was in office. Canada people
Yeah,
would
they
come
were
down
making
here and their
tons of
money
money.
was worth more than ours was.
Tons of money.
Yeah, so
Let's jump over real fast. You guys aren't going to see it, but I'll read them off first. Let's give a shout out to Tony. He's up watching the feed. Give us a ring sometime, Tony. You can call in. We talked to you last time. He said they went after Trump first, so when it came around to them, they can say the Republicans are just upset about Democrats going after Trump. That was to our earlier talk. He let us know that it is Ron Paul. He also said over 1 million killed in Iraq. He's talking about that can't be American soldiers though. 1 million in Iraq, no.
Millions of
Kevin said hi. What up, Kevin? Elizabeth Ramsey. Tons of Americans have not even received their stimulus check.
wow. You know what?
They have
I've
not-
heard
Isn't that
I've
something?
heard that today from some people in Texas and some people in Minnesota and some people in Chicago.
Yeah, there's a lot, and you know, I don't really want to get into why that is because I don't work for the IRS or anything like that. So, Tony said quit incentivizing people to enter illegally. So that was like what we had talked about before. Tony said they're mud cookies. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Sanctuary cities limit corporation with Fed immigration to protect low priority immigrants from deportation.
That's a good answer to Eddie's question that he had asked earlier.
Right.
What is the point.
And I'll actually I googled that just so I could get it,
Oh.
and I've got the Wikipedia short answer to that. But I think there's
I think
a
the
lot
Republican
of
people aren't going to want to hear.
yeah, they're
Wikipedia.
not. But a sanctuary city refers to municipal jurisdictions, typically in North America, that limit their cooperation with the national government's effort to enforce immigration law. And I remember a big to-do, I think it was with the Chicago mayor, wasn't it? It went in Trump. Didn't they have a spat back and forth?
You were talking about
Yeah.
Emmanuel.
I don't know. Tell us.
but
Tell us.
I just remember reading about that and how basically who's the who's right and who's wrong when it came down to what they were going to do in order to help with the enforcement of ICE and removal.
Okay.
And so, go ahead.
So this goes back to what I was talking about with the whole ICE departments inside police departments.
You got it.
So that's what these sanctuary cities do. They don't allow the feds to set up shop.
They're not gonna,
in
and they're
their
not gonna
city.
share information. They're not gonna
Oh.
share the information. So if they know where somebody is, and even if the federal government has them on that list, they're not going to
Well,
say,
that's
"Oh
New
yeah, they
York.
live around the corner."
But that's
Oh,
New York
shit.
and California at the
Yeah.
same time.
I need to
and
change my
Jersey.
name and move to a sanctuary city.
Uh-huh.
Since you're into not telling the feds where people are.
Why?
Um,
I just that's just so strange to me. A law to stop another agency from enforcing the law.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniela asks Tony, "What's a mud cookie?" Yeah, I do think that's. I don't know what it is. So I'm just gonna assume that it was a very.
Tony, you're going to get cream for that one.
Um,
I love you to death, but by God, you
He said exactly what it says. Oh, yeah, no, that's pretty. I'm gonna have to condemn you for that one. He said
Eddie, or not Eddie.
exactly. Tony.
Tony, I'm
Benedict.
sorry. Eddie's looking at me like, hey, yeah.
He said exactly what it says. Haitians can't figure out how to grow crops and live off baked mud.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a little messed
low.
up, man.
Tony.
Danielle also said yes, so important to know your reps, and she put up a link, dos.myflorida.com, elections, contracts, elected officials.
Thanks for that contribution. Appreciate it.
We need to put that on our website.
She is that's actually my wife, in full disclosure.
Hey,
So,
woman.
She's the one that actually created that document that I shared before earlier in the thing, in full disclosure. But I do want to commend her and her team for the crazy nights. Normally, I just fall asleep watching TV, and she's like 2 a.m. still doing Excel spreadsheets. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Wow.
I would just tell people
they
I get mad, and I tell her, I was like, I think in my own personal opinion at this point, people deserve what they get. You deserve everything that an elected official gives to you because of, in a way, your own ignorance.
Right.
So, because you come to my door, things are going to definitely end a lot different than what you thought when you walked up to my door. It just,
Oh, I don't blame you.
right?
I mean,
Two
that's a lot of
deployments,
people. That's a lot of people out
nothing
there.
you got in your car scares me, bro.
Oh wow.
I done shot missiles before. Like, don't, but that's just me. I won't go off the deep end and scare anybody.
So let's take a 2-minute break, and we'll be right back.
Hold on. I'm still touching these comments.
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Forgive me.
I just wanted to drop a fun fact for everybody real quick.
Who's got control of the screen here? Well, we could cut it off. It's only Tony Benedict. So that's your repentance, Tony. Is we're not going to talk about the rest of your comments, and I'm gonna let Eddie we're gonna shush you, Tony. We're gonna let Eddie go ahead
I just
and
wanted to just
give
close
a
on this.
shusher.
On this
Shusher.
I need the
on the
shusher.
fun fact real quick.
Go
Since
ahead.
we were talking about millionaires and billionaires. I remember I was talking with my friends the other day, and we were doing some math, and I believe Bill Gates has enough money to give everybody in Cape Coral $100,000 and still be a millionaire.
Yeah, but that's Cape Coral. It's only 200,000.
There's
people.
500. I did it with 500,000 people.
Oh, so it's Cape Coral and Fort Myers. Well, no, that's kind of like just San Carlos Park. That was a bad immigrant joke.
No, because they'd
Those-
come up here and rob you for the $100,000.
Well, we don't know the ones that aren't accounted for. So
All right, so please don't drop off the feed. We're going to take a little break and set up for this next segment. The next segment is like we're diving in national politics, national news. We had our fun time, and we'll get set up to take some calls when we get back. Thank you.
I don't know.
All right, all right.
That was good.
It is. All right, well, we can get ready to jump into this next segment here. I got a little nice little, America, America. We're jumping into Obama let's see. Let's get into that. Go ahead.
All right, so we looked it up today, and we looked at two different sources. We looked at CNN and the New York Post. Both of them are, we'll just say they're close. Obamagate. Everybody's sitting there, and everybody's wondering about the Michael Flynn thing. So it seems like a bunch of the Obama intelligence agencies, they asked to unmask Michael Flynn. And, you know, it's crazy that we have an intelligence agency that can flip either way like that. I mean, politics should not be about intelligence. Intelligence should be about helping our country out, not sitting there using it as a political tool to hurt somebody else. And you know, and Trump brought this up a long time ago. It just seems like to me, President Trump's dropping breadcrumbs for people to follow to see if they pick up on it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people laugh at him. A lot of people tell him, you're out of your mind. And you got Fox News, and you got ONN, and you got Newsmax. And a lot of those people, they're actually going out and doing the investigations that they're supposed to do. So going back and looking at what we're doing is, it's like, you know, it says like presumptive Democratic candidate Joe Biden heads a list for more than a dozen Obama officials who spied on Michael Flynn and the Trump campaign.
You know, I just wanted to throw this out here, how I feel. It's crazy how history repeats itself. If I remember correctly, Richard Nixon, didn't he use the CIA to spy on the Democrats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here it is, a Democrat
So are they
doing
being
that to
hypocrites? Or does it's so old that doesn't really count?
Nah,
like you
it's,
can't really.
Nah, it's 30 years ago. Nobody remembers that.
You know, but schools, do you think schools are really teaching history like that? I mean,
No,
like with
absolutely not.
Definitely
like with
not.
everything else that you read about. Like when I went through high school and you went through high school, I'm not sure about you, Corey, but I mean, when you went through high school, you're about in the same age range, right? You're in your
No.
He's like not even close, dude.
you ain't in your 20s. Give me a break here. but-
No. Yeah, I'm almost 40.
Okay, so but when you're going through high school and you learn about history, I mean, you learn about this stuff. Even
I think maybe for me, I won't fully say that, but I've always liked history. I was one of the weird kids, even in the 7th grade. Like I loved the civil system, and then you learn it. Obviously, you have to go through history again when you go into the military. You know, you just a lot of conversations come up about history and the structure of the nation. You get a different perspective than really what I think they teach in schools, for sure. Not everything I learned in high school was anywhere near right. You know, they do focus everything on the president. Me and Sherry were talking earlier before we started about how, you know, society has things backwards, that the president's role, the sum of our conversation, right, is that people have forgotten that a president really is just your international ambassador. That's all he is. He's not
Exactly.
supposed to be your policymaker.
right.
Congress is who you should care about. I don't really care that much about what Trump has to say day to day, and I really think that that's why Congress and Senate is kind of making a mistake, but they know that they pull the strings on the everyday American. So why do you keep, trying to put a focus on Trump, and you're putting yourself in the limelight? Most people never even knew who their senator was prior to all this.
You know, and that's actually so very true. Back
is
in the
very true.
early 90s, how many people really remembered, except for Newt Gingrich being the Speaker of the House
Well,
during the Clinton days?
Right.
things were much different during the 90s.
Nobody knew Biden was putting black people in jail.
We
Or
were
what's the
talking-
other lady that was the attorney general that was running?
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. She was locking up black people left and right. And now talking about black reparations.
Anything.
You know what?
to
That'll
get
be
votes.
next week's story right there. We will talk about that. But
Reparations.
Sherry, what do you have to say
Yeah.
about that?
That's perfectly fine. I think we should talk more about sanctuary cities too, because that seemed to be a big. That seemed to take
Right now
take
or
the-
later?
No, later.
I'm really
We'll do that on
confused
another
about
show.
this. Yeah, we do need to do an in-depth.
That
We need to
seems to
look
get
at
a lot
some
of
law,
attention on
some
the
case
website.
law.
I think where you were going, though, is that when you go to the ballot box, and what we were discussing earlier is where the money is spent, we recognize the big names towards the top. What we aren't focusing a great deal on is who actually, oh, did we lose sound?
No, you're good.
Are we good? Okay. Is actually the people who make the policy that we need to vote into office that actually represent us. And you see everywhere how we all, you see everybody saying, I wish we could all just come together. Why can't we just all get along? Well, that's not going to happen when you're discussing the President of the United States, because only anywhere from a third to 45% of the people actually voted for the person.
Right.
There's always going to be the larger percentage that didn't agree with everything that he was running on, and they have all sorts of ideas and opinions along the way and in between. So I think what is important is that we get closer with the local representatives and the smaller names on the list where the billions of dollars are not being spent, and really begin to educate ourselves on who we want to represent us, because that really, like you said, is not the job of the President of the United States.
Right.
He's really, like you said, more of an ambassador role. However, our Congress, our senators, they need to do a better job of representing us and doing what we ask.
So what's the role of the
Amen to
what's the role for the president though? Either
He's mostly that. He's the ambassador to the world, right?
He's the executor that makes
if
sure.
you look at the UN, right, the structure of the UN, all of the head leaders of those nations come together to talk about what's going on in those nations. He's your ambassador to the world.
He should be representing the greater good of
Right,
all, and
right.
not just a side or a
Right.
group.
He should go out, meet with these other world leaders, as they always. It's funny that they keep the traditions of old politicians or old president leaders, but don't keep the role or job that they're supposed to be doing in those traditions, right? You should go to another country and barter on what is a benefit for, hey, this is a negotiation. You have you want to bring it to my country? My people would love to have whatever that object is, but this is the manner in which it's going to come in, right? That's
Isn't he doing that with China now before the whole COVID outbreak?
Now, did you guys did any of you guys watch, it's not really a part of our show, but did you guys watch the Senate review?
You mean you're talking about
Well, they
the
just
Senate
did it earlier.
trial with the doctor?
With the doctor and the other PPE guy, the guy that manufactures masks?
I do remember that. Yeah.
Did you watch it earlier today?
I heard about it.
You got to go and see it. I'm sure you guys will see sound bites on the news tonight. I nominate that dude for president left and right. He said, for 13 years, I've been arguing and telling you guys that you need to stop. You're worrying about pennies. He sat up there and told them, you're worried about pennies for a product that now you want me to produce to protect the American people. He said, you haven't given me one government contract in a time of peace, and now that there's this outbreak, you want my company to turn around and bail you out on manufacturing masks at a penny a piece? He said, no, I'm not doing it.
But do you blame him though?
He said, give me a contract, not a bailout, or I'm not doing it. He says, I got 4 machines sitting and doing nothing, and I'm not turning them on.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, love this guy.
I can't wait to see that later. I was with the working folk earlier today, so I didn't get to see anything on the news. Doing my
So
JOB.
travel is a essential job?
No, not, yeah. It is now. It is now with all the changes that are taking place in the world.
Right, Tony. You're all right, Tony. Tony said, "I swear it's a thing. It wasn't being racist or anything. I don't know, whatever." But he said, Congress wants attention on their terms. That's why they don't want to do the people's business.
So let's go back to
Let's
go back to while we pull this post up.
So look, I'll say you can hit your point. I'll let you hit your point first because I think mine's going to be after yours.
No,
on this
absolutely.
article here, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like you look at Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, you look at Nadler. I can't remember his first name. Please forgive me. But all they did last year, I mean, they just got elected. A lot of these people just got elected, and all they did was go after Trump. You had the impeachment hoax. You had the
Russia hoax.
You had all these different things. And it's just crazy that we're all sitting here and everybody's buying into one side or the other. I mean, the truth is there in the middle. And you know, Flynn, he might have called this Kislyak guy, and he might have had a conversation. Well, that's his prerogative. He was coming in with an incoming president that just got duly elected, and it's like, come on, people. Why would somebody want to spy on something like that? I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, they really, really try to take Trump. It was a coup. This is a coup, to me. So, and it's sad that we have people like that are political. They're that political.
I know, and it amazes me that the amount of money and effort and energy and time that has been spent, and doesn't matter how you feel about the guy, and just in general, it just boggles my mind how those resources could have been better put to use.
Right. This part blows me away. It says interview of former Obama officials released last week show that the previous White House prompted a culture of espionage. They basically say like that was a culture of Obama's way of being that world ambassador is espionage. It says
but do you
President
think he
Barack
corrupted the intelligence agency?
It says
Well,
Barack
it's
Obama,
possible.
Barack Obama's team was spying on his successor in order to preserve his foreign policy initiatives. So he's working for the Clintons, more or less, right? Because he doesn't really have international things. It's actually the Clinton Foundation that has a lot of international moving parts. Obama, as far as I know, doesn't own any companies that have broad stroke international interests.
But, okay, but let's just say this again then. A lot of people said, like John Kerry going to Iran and talking to the Iran people after Trump's elected. Him going over there and talking to that government, and what is he saying to that government? Shouldn't we know everything that he's saying to those people? I mean, he could go over there and say, "Dad, don't worry about it. The Democrats got this under control. Don't." I mean, am I right or wrong? It's like
here's the thing. You know, unfortunately for Iran, they were really put in a real peculiar situation because Obama had promised them all this nuclear technology and freedom and that they can do this and that.
That's right.
And then the administration changed and the deal that was made, well, that deal's ripped up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so now Iran's, well, I understand why they're pissy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
I could get that. You know, that being able to usher yourself into 21st technology is big for a developmental country.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, I think a lot of people sit there, and I think, like with Iran getting $125 billion or whatever.
that could have went to American people, but never mind.
Well, if you listen to it right, a lot of liberals are saying that's their money. Well, who cares? I mean, seriously, who cares?
You know,
Yeah, Elizabeth said, have they ever really been for the people? Said that type of corruption has been going on before we were born, and we're foolish to think any differently.
right?
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you a pet peeve about Iran. So we have all these embargoes against Iran. We're not supposed to be doing business with them, and we cannot buy oil from them, all right? And the European Union is not supposed to be buying oil from them, but their biggest they sell oil to China. You know, why did this just piggybacks on to my gripe from like last week is like China doesn't play by the rules that we as the world leaders that we set, and and I really feel like now is the time where we can really hold China accountable for things,
That's a very good point.
And one of the things that we could start with is, hey, China, stop buying oil from Iran because Iran is even though they have all these embargoes and whatnot, they're not working because they're still doing business. You know what I'm saying? So that's what allows Iran to just do all these rogue things.
I think if the people stick up with the focus and the anger, which is tough because I think the general public of America generally we love following trends. We love just watching a trend, riding from one headline to the next headline to the next headline. But I really hope that the anger and the fierceness of everything going on really will be a pride revival for our country, and we can get back to doing the American made and
Made in America.
right, and investing, because now we have the generations to do it, right, and to do it in a very amazing way. Millennials nowadays, I mean, we talked when we had our meeting earlier this week. They got 9-year-olds learning how to code.
Exactly.
Technologies, the type of digital engineering or manufacturing that these young kids can really jump in and figure out. It's really just maybe trying to connect the older generation to the younger generation and say, hey, look, this is how you make a part, and then the younger generation can figure out how to make that part faster, easier, better.
Yep.
Right. So I really hope that anger stays and continues to thrive. Let's jump over to this. Trump slams Biden is big unmasking after U.S. spy chief releases list of officials who viewed Flynn's file. Let's progress on to that so we can jump into Wisconsin and on to New York. That article. So some of the highlights here, was that disclosure about Biden?
It is. It's about Biden made the acting director of National Intelligence, Rick Grenell, under highly unusual circumstances, as to evidence of Obama administration plot to take down his presidency. So, let me ask everybody something. I mean, if you're listening to us right now, do you believe this really happened or not? Or do you believe that this would really happen in America? I mean, I hate to say this, but in my heart of hearts, I believe that it did. But my heart of hearts have been wrong before. So, but if you look at the evidence coming out a little bit more, doesn't it seem like that the fruition's coming true?
Yes.
So what do you think?
Tony said McCarthy was right. I don't know. I to be honest, these weren't the headlines really that I followed. So
No, those are mine.
I don't have too much to say about these ones.
I think we got to be patient. A lot of Republicans want everybody to hang that did all this. I think we got to be patient. I think we have to be patient. And that's something about America that's always been there. We have to be patient. We have grit. We have the know-how. We know how to get things done.
Let's not make it a novelty.
What throws me off is, so Trump is all upset about all this going on, and he backs Flynn, but yet he was the one that fired him, right?
Yeah, but why did he fire him though? Because
he lied to
the FBI.
To the FBI, but he admitted that he actually really did lie.
Yeah.
So I'm really confused in all of it. Like it's like this big whirlwind that I personally, cabinets kind of change left and right. I don't have anything against Flynn. I don't want to pull his stars off his shoulder. I don't think that he earned all of those, and like we've already known now, or it's already come out, like the whole Comey thing, and like to me it just seems a big old mess that I don't know who the hell to throw a rock at. Like I really just want to thump all of you over the head. Trump, you say that he's this great guy that should have never had to deal with this, but yet you fired him over it,
and he didn't stand behind stand behind the man. But
and one of his claims to fame is loyalty, right? One of his claims to fame is loyalty.
What about not general? What about the general attorney or the before whatever his name is from Alabama? Damn, I can't remember his name. Jeff Sessions.
Oh, Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
I mean,
following trends, nobody remembers.
Yeah, but
right. I don't know on that. If somebody else has some other input,
Please
you can
us.
call in. Folks can give him that number.
239-313-0742.
I just wanted to comment on this picture of Joe Biden and Trump, which I believe this is going to be the two front runners for the general election if we have one this year. I feel like the entire liberals' stance, what their whole go-to is going to be for is, we're going to give you more stimulus checks, we're going to give you more free stuff, and we're gonna bail you out if you vote for us. You know, look at how wrecked the economy is. You know what I'm saying? Trump has no COVID care plan for you.
Oh, we are getting a call. I think after the election, this is what Trump's going to be doing.
Eh?
Going to be G-Walking. Caller, you are on.
Hey, it's Tony again.
Oh, we're going to have to cut him off.
Oh, come
The
on. now.
Haitian hater.
Haha, do we got that buzzer ready?
No, that's a thing. I swear to God, that's a thing. But yeah, you guys seem a little confused about my comment about McCarthy was right. That's basically a reference back to the 50s when McCarthy was trying to point out all these politicians that were acting on communist best interests and things like that, and he was basically run out as, you know, at the time being a witch hunter and all this other stuff. But I mean, with everything that's been going on since then up to today, the evidence seems pretty clear that he was right, that this has been building over decades.
I mean, what about Trump? Do you think Trump's been dropping breadcrumbs for people to follow a little bit? I mean, when he came in, you got to know that he's talked to all his people, and all those people that came in, they're sitting there. They got to find out all the information before Trump goes in there. Because, I mean, administration changing over, right? So you got to think he's already got people in mind, and he's having those people talking to him. And you got to think those other people are sitting there telling them this, that, and the other, and those people come back to Trump going, "Holy smoke, this is going to be a mess right here." You know what I mean? Because they never even expected Trump to be president. So how many of those intelligence agency people lied to the people that Trump wanted them to talk to? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know to what degree it's actually about lying or more of manipulation tactics. What I have seen, I mean, I'm only 40 or 39, so there hasn't been too many presidents through my lifetime. But from what I have seen is when a new president takes office, there's almost a 180 flip from candidate whoever to president whoever. And I've been wondering for a long time, why? Why is it when somebody gets in the office, they suddenly flip? And at first I thought, well, it was them running on their campaign and they never keep campaign promises and things like that. But something that I picked up from Trump's campaign and presidency is I don't think it's so much them reneging on campaign promises or anything. I think what it is that quote unquote deep state of these people that are in high level unelected positions that all of a sudden have the ear of this new person, and they know how to play these people, especially if they're career politicians. They've already had practice with them. They've known them as Senator such and such or Representative such and such. So they know the buttons to push. They know the carrots to dangle in front of them and things like that. So they're able to basically play them the way they want to. Trump comes in and he's this wild card for everybody.
All right. I think some of that, one is the party line difference in why everything changes. I guess the other weird thing that I'm wondering is who's going to be. I don't think Biden will make it. I don't think any Democrat that came up this cycle around is going to make it because it just generally doesn't happen. The one-term presidency type stuff. But
I don't know how anybody could vote for him. I mean, with the dementia and everything, you can't even try to deny it. I mean, there is so much video evidence, that and the way he is with women and children. There is so much video evidence from national television that's out there. You can't possibly deny it.
So who's their next superstar? That's what I'm. In a way, for another conversation, we'll have that
Yeah.
be one of the topics is who their next one is. Real fast, I do want to give a shout out to Stephanie Elaine. If you're still watching, she's one of our Rise Up Now supporters. I give her a big shout out for that. Stephanie, if you got something to talk about, call in and let's talk about that.
Yeah, I feel guilty dominating the phone lines
Oh
and
no,
stuff.
you're all right. I just like to hear something. Stephanie is another one of those people that she's friends with my wife, and they continue to fight fights that some people are going to say you're never going to win that fight, and no matter what, I give them the heart to continue to fight for civil liberties and getting the value back to family, and those type
Absolutely.
things. So I think those are still big fights that somebody has to make, right, to continue to educate people. What's your take? What do you know, Tony, about this Wisconsin Supreme Court strikes down states' stay at home?
I don't know much. I haven't really been following Wisconsin too much. I mean, I've been trying to keep up with Ohio and things like that. But yeah, good for them to strike that down. I mean, that's great. There's been more damage done through these government actions than there's been from the virus itself. And the people from the opposition will say, yeah, but nobody in the government has killed anybody and blah, blah, blah. Well, to an extent, that's true. I mean, they haven't physically been killed, but what's going on with the small businesses and with people's finances and even mental health being stuck in their home for so long? I mean, there's going to be consequences, and there are things worse than death out there.
That is for sure. Tony, we want to thank you for your phone call, and we're going to go to the next subject. Please,
All right.
Thank you so much for calling us.
Thank you,
You're
Tony.
welcome. Yep. Bye.
Thanks, Tony. So we're going to continue talking about the Wisconsin Supreme Court and how they did strike down the stay-at-home order. The decision came 4-3, and this limits Evers' ability to make that statewide rule. And so if you would like to contribute, please do give us a call. We'd like to hear your opinion on that. And Tony touched on a few parts of it. And I think that goes back to, is the cure better?
Right.
And is the cure, what does the saying go? Is the cure better than the cause? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I believe.
Something
I
like
don't know
that.
what the saying
And
is,
that-
but
well,
I
what
disagreed
I'm-
in you saying it.
What I was trying
Government
to read.
is not the cure, though.
I shouldn't be reading and talking at the same time. And I think what he's trying to say is by shutting all of the people up for a very, very long period of time creates an effect, a rippling effect that isn't and cannot just be cured by simply just opening up the doors again.
Right.
Some of these people will not be able to return to work. Some of these people will not be able to accumulate enough funds to get a deposit on a rental and first and last month's rent if they ultimately are once this is over and they lift the sanctions that saying you can't evict anybody, they're not going to be able to get back into their homes or their apartments and continue life the way that they did. And even with some of the reopening slowly, which I'm glad it is, but it does limit the ability of income to a large degree for a lot of people, not just because they're limiting who can go and how many people can go to a particular business, such as a restaurant, but the fact that there will be people that are ready to get out and they will go visit those businesses, but there's still half the population that's still living very much in fear and is scared. And there is the other part of the population that should be, because they're more susceptible to the virus itself.
Right.
So I think with all that being said, I'd like to hear what other people's opinions are about it. We're here in Florida right now, and I know that the situation in Florida, depending on what county you're in, doesn't mimic the situation that you see in New York City, for example.
Right. So I'm wondering who else, because we have Texas now that it's gone backwards, and now Wisconsin. I'm not familiar with any other state that has hard challenged this, and them find out that these executive branches don't have the authority to do this. So I'm curious who else is gonna start to kick back.
But wasn't the reasoning for this, wasn't the premise is it's based on the Constitution and the freedoms, and that's why.
But how many people gave up their civil liberties for all this? And how quickly did everybody give up their civil
we all did.
liberties?
We all
right.
did.
The moment nobody stormed the street with a rifle and a flag in hand, we were all complacent. And
Bingo, there it is. That's that's the whole thing right there. We all become lazy and complacent, and I'm talking about everybody. I mean,
I wasn't lazy. I protested.
Well, yes, you did.
Oh,
and
we got,
you know
we
what?
got a call.
even
We got a call. Let's see this. Let's see this. Caller.
Welcome to the show.
Georgia. This is somebody from Georgia. Talk to us.
It's Elizabeth.
Oh, hey.
Hey, guys. What's up?
Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Okay, so I wanted to hit on the stay-at-home order. I live in Georgia, and I am self-employed. I am a barber, and I think most of you know Georgia was kind of like leading the way for people to open up very soon.
Yes, they did.
Okay, but what I wanted to hit on basically was the rules and the stipulations that have been put on us. Even though they opened us up, I haven't even been back to work because now not only do I have to follow a state board regulation, now I have an executive order on top of more state board regulations and OSHA standards. It would literally cost me more money to go back to work than it would for me to stay at home.
Right.
Wow.
And that's part of the problem, I think, is, they say they want to open you up, let's get the economy going, but then they do nothing but hammer you with rules and regulations and tell you if you don't follow every single one, $1,000 fine, and we're going to shut you down and take your license.
Yep, I agree. And I think that has a lot to do with that blanket effect. They have to pander to the lowest common denominator. They have to assume that goofball that is either affected by it, that doesn't know any better, is going to be walking into your shop one day that's going to, it kind of infect you, and then you'll infect your family. And I think that's ridiculous because if we think about the general population, we like to think that pretty much people are on par. Elizabeth, I went out today, and I have not been out very much at all. I will admit I'm one of those people who has been very careful. I have a family. I also have a best friend who is also owns a salon as a hairdresser, has been her entire life. It's not as if she can just go and change careers or be something different during this pandemic.
Exactly.
So I sympathize with you incredibly with the situation that you are in right now personally and how that is affecting you. But again, along with this blanket effect that they have distributed across the states, it just isn't fair. It needs to be something that is done more at a local municipal level, according to both your area and I think the general position that you are in, whether your business is in restaurant, whether you're a beautician or a barber or a hairdresser, what have you. I think it affects people differently because how you do business is different. It's not as if you've got yourself surrounded by 25 people in a very small vicinity. You're taking appointments, I would assume, as most places do. And
we do not. We are actually a walk-in business. We are old school barber shop. So now we're required to take appointments.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that because I live in a small community.
Right. But I'm sure that where they come in and they're sitting, or if it's a walk-in establishment, you'd have a place for people to kind of sit in a lobby or sign in on a checklist, right? So I think we could take some precautions there in that sort of a situation. But that's where I say it needs to be done more at an individual level as opposed to this overall blanket effect.
Right. I think I'm in my own personal opinion, I really think that should be up to her. She makes that decision. The majority of that decision should be left up to her, and the consumers will respond accordingly. If people feel scared, they don't come.
That's how I feel.
Let everybody at least make their own choice. When you see now those choices start to lead to mistakes, then those things should come. But the other part is when that starts to occur, when she starts to be dangerous in her business practice and the consumer's ignorance doesn't help the situation, I really think that the problem is you got to remove organizations like the EPA and OSHA out of the picture, because you're
Yeah.
writing guidelines and rules and laws that apply to people, and you are not elected for that role. There's no reason, somebody that just held a job because they applied for a job should have the authority to govern the people. The whole point and principle of our structure of government is that you lose election if the people aren't happy. But we can't do that with OSHA. We can't fire OSHA, but yeah, they're the ones that are going to come in. They can legally lock up her business, arrest her, through the police. And how is a police officer having to listen to somebody that's not been elected in that role? That's what he has a sheriff for. That's why we elected a sheriff.
Right.
Judges are all elected, based on those things. That part to me is really, really weird, that everybody else in the picture, even on the education, right? Your education, your board of director of education is an elected individual, I believe, or
Yes.
or it's peer. I'm not 100% sure, but
No, they're elected in Georgia. They are elected.
right. That to me is a big thing, that she's being governed by people that she never consented to their government.
Right.
Yep.
And my own county and city aren't even enforcing these. These are, our governor made it very clear that he's in charge. The counties cannot govern themselves.
Right. So Danielle is asking you on the live stream, do you think if more people protested in Georgia or defied the order, they would reverse it like Texas and Florida has?
I'm not sure. I've wondered myself, but I honestly think part of the reason that they've done it is because the economy went down, because the state wasn't making as much money. I think they have implemented these rules, and it might sound insane, but I think it's in order to make more money off of us. They can fine us more. They can do more to us to get more money out of us, to punish us for certain things.
You know what? And you almost hit that probably right on the head right there. What do you think, Eddie?
I think that sometimes government organizations just implement rules and guidelines that they know are baloney, but they just want to have, to justify their job and their existence, and just want to say that, hey, we're doing something.
But that's why we got rid of Obamacare, wasn't it? I mean, Obama and his regulations and all that. Well,
Thank you, Elizabeth. For
Yeah,
your,
let's
Thank
your
you,
contribution.
guys.
You have a wonderful
Thank you.
day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Talk to you.
calling.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Let's jump on to man. This is my segment here.
Your turn.
Hopefully my wife doesn't get too mad, right? She is from New York, but luckily she does not like their governmental structure. So I have this up here. There are 2 reasons New York has more COVID deaths than any other state, and you're looking at them. Those 2 right there are insane. So I'm gonna play a clip for you guys, and you listen to these highlights
New York State,
here.
I'm proud of what our people have done, and we're proceeding with caution and with intelligence. We also need help from Washington. I understand the federal government has said, it's up to the states, it's up to the governors. Great. But we need help to make this happen. And we need help from Washington. I think that the decision or realization that it should be done state by state makes sense. But it doesn't mean the states are on their own either. And we need federal legislation. We need what's called state and local aid. Our state budget, our state economy has suffered. We have a significant funding gap, and states need assistance. New York has about a $61 billion funding gap, which is a very, very serious funding gap. Who does the state fund? If we don't have
Look it up.
funds in our budget, what does it mean? States fund local governments. We fund police, firefighters, and schools.
All right, so basically, Como was saying New York needs $61 billion alone in federal support, lottie, or he's going to have to cut 20% from schools, 20% from local government, 20% from hospitals.
That sounds like a ransom.
Right. 20 or 61. Sorry, I said 21, didn't I? $61 billion. On top of this guy is out here in his daily conference saying that he needs philanthropy help. Who governs a state and starts telling nonprofits, we need your help? You need to do your bit, right? I think that's crazy that somebody's going to start directly reaching out to them. So in this next clip, this is a direct clip of
As far as the state budget is purely
a later
gonna be
budget.
a function of what we get from Washington. We have a $61 billion deficit. There is no way I can make up that deficit. I am very good at controlling costs. You look at how our state budget has gone up year to year. It's gone up at a lower rate than any past governor. So I'm proud of that. But I can't make up $61 billion. And it's going to be purely a function of what happens in Washington. If they act responsibly and they give state governments the assistance they need, just to balance the books, we just want to balance the books, then we'll proceed with the budget plan that we had. But if we don't get Washington to act intelligently, which wouldn't shock any of us, right? We're going to have a serious problem. And I can't tell you what actions we would need to take to fill that budget hole, because we've never been here before. It's a larger budget hole than this state has ever faced.
So basically, we find there that his state deficit is $61 billion, but somehow the American people need to bail out New York because of this COVID and the state cost, that they're not making money and everything else. Basically, for first responders, he needs $61 billion.
Well, New Yorkers voted that clown in. They can
Right. So
figure it out.
I have here a clip from the audit done by a Boston consulting group. The report finds a $13.3 billion shortfall in this year's budget, with ironic, once again we find, with a $61 billion structural deficit over the next 4 years. So basically, his deficit for the next 4 years is actually $61 billion. It's really odd that somehow everything is adding up to $61 billion if it's about COVID. So the assessment done by the Boston Consulting Group predicted the state's economy will lose a staggering $243 billion over the course of the pandemic, and the economic recovery, or 14% of the state's gross domestic product. And the recovery will be longer than the Great Recession over a decade ago.
Good thing I don't live in New York right now.
So really, no, you would actually be all right. Now the American people are going to pay to balance your book. Basically, that's what he's saying Trump needs to do.
I don't know how he's going to make it happen, Gory. Quite
He's
honestly, I'm telling you that New York City does not represent New York as a whole. And the upper portion, more famously known as upstate New York, which is completely different, can't afford it. They just can't. I'm telling you right now, next to New Jersey, I think New York State has the highest property taxes going today. I mean, average $300,000 home with a $6,000 to $8,000 a year property tax bill is astronomical, and that's exactly what they're looking at up there. And now they want to ask for more.
Yeah, and if he doesn't get it, they'll just blame Trump.
Right, and he's trying to funnel it in
that's
through
pretty much what this is.
COVID relief.
This is a preemptive. Well, the economy's bad because of Trump move.
Right.
No, this has been going on for years.
Right, they've been
and
broke,
years
right?
And years, yes, through administration and many, many elections, and they cannot seem to get it right up there in New York.
And it's weird because their population density, you would think, talking about taxes, the state tax and everything else on the payroll, your number of population, I mean, I think they're like the second or third. New York City is like the second or third largest population in the nation. How can you be broke?
I believe New York City's largest city.
Is it the first?
Number one.
Okay. So they're just they're on the upside of LA. I think it New York, LA.
It's New York, LA, Houston, and
Right.
then Chicago, I think.
But they're all Democratic-ran cities.
Correct.
So what does that tell you, though?
How are you broke? unless your social system. Like, to me, it just comes back to the social, because they're still paying astronomical amounts in rent and everything else.
But liberals are telling us that they're paying for our they're trying to shame us for, like, you live in Florida. Florida's a Republican thing. Our main thing is what? Tourism, right?
Right.
Okay, and they're saying, well, we're paying for y'all. Well, why can't you pay for us?
What do you mean?
Well, but hold on for a sec. See, if you look at it like this.
Are they claiming just because property taxes? Or are you going to really sit here and try to make an argument that it's an equal share because you pay a property tax?
Yeah, but if you looked at with Rudy Giuliani when he was the mayor.
America's mayor.
America's mayor. And who did they have for the governor at that time? You remember?
Pataki.
And what was he? A Republican.
Yeah.
And what was New York City doing at that time? They were doing really good.
Yeah.
Except for 9/11, right?
Yeah.
They weren't going broke. They didn't
they
have
got
homeless
rid of-
people. They didn't
they
have
got rid of
homeless
crime.
people everywhere. They didn't have high crime rates.
Right.
I mean, you had Giuliani and you had Pataki. And Giuliani had one of the most fiercest, like, stop and frisk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you see how they're enforcing the current, like, stay at home? Have you seen the videos that, like, 5 cops slam this girl with, she's walking in the subway with no mask, and she's got a 6-year-old with her, a 6-year-old
you
little
know what?
girl.
I saw that.
You see that clip? All these cops slamming this late, and she's like 20. I think they said she's 27 years old. She's got a 6-year-old kid.
Where do you lose? Where's the line of common sense?
Over not
lost
having a
over that?
mask on your face.
Wow.
And she's walking out. They didn't even let her go into the subway, and she's walking out, and the cops are still running their mouth to her, and she's having a bad day or what. Who knows
Maybe
where
she
she's
ripped,
going?
Maybe it ripped. Maybe it
Right.
It fell out. She removed it for. Where's the benefit of doubt? Why isn't that not coming into play?
Right. Or the other video that they're like, that cop is straight in the middle of the street, punching. Literally pumping. He had the kid down on the ground, and he was round hooking the kid right into the side of his face, just over and over and over. And it's like, at some time and point, when you people put down your cell phones, grab a trash can and bash him over the head. I'm sorry to incite violence, but why are you just sitting there recording it?
I think that's a lot of things that a lot of people do instead of trying to be. You look at the ingenuity of America. Americans always try to help Americans out, right? I mean, honestly. I mean, that's what
we care about each other, right?
We care about each other. We're all one big family.
We might bitch doing it, like Thanksgiving dinner,
and you're
right?
right,
Thanksgiving
right.
dinner is always a headache, but we love each other.
Right. And that's the weirdest thing. It's like, I think that they have pitted us all against each other. I think they want African Americans to hate white people, the white people to hate African Americans, and African Americans to hate Hispanics.
I think it's a
Asians,
status
and
thing now. I don't think it's about race anymore. I think it's a status thing because now it's not even. Now it doesn't matter that to some people that might be older, right? I'm mixed naturally, and my wife is Italian. So some people might have an issue seeing us as a couple. But others care more that we live on this side of the bridge than the other side of the bridge.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
I mean,
facts.
no, it's sad.
It's a status thing now. It's the haves and the have-nots, right? And it'll go back. I implore anybody to actually read up on the Willie Lynch theory. It was originally used for slave owners about slaves and pinning a light-skinned slave against a dark-skinned slave. Teach the guy in the field to hate the one in the house, and they'll never unite to overthrow you, right? Because the slave owner has 50 slaves, and he might only have three
guns.
3 guns, right? And they were tired of the uproars. There's a real guy that toured around and helped slave owners get their plantation under control. His name is Willie Lynch. And he has a whole principle, the Willie Lynch theory. And it was effective and it works. And it still happens today. Black people will still hate on black people. Dark skin, light skin, this, that, and the other. Long hair, short hair, whether you got
it's more
nappy
about
head.
status, though. It's
More
about status. So.
Right. But if you
Exactly.
look, that same theory is still used today. Just it's no longer about a light-skinned black person and a dark-skinned black person. It's about a status, your house, what your social media looks like, what car you drive. Why is it that they spend so much effort to tear down the trade and skilled labor industry when these people made serious money? Their retirements look amazing. I mean, if you worked for the railroad, you're retiring making more than $100,000 a year.
Yep.
For life. You're gonna make that. So it's like you tore down these plumbers, these pipe fitters, even like New York, right? All these union trades. They trade these kids, and these people, they didn't come from a massive education, but they still taught the college kid to hate that guy that picks up a hammer.
That's sad.
Not to hate, but that it had he holds lower value.
Right. Even though he can buy the house right next door to yours.
Yep. He's less than.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like that craziness. So who have you guys looked at the HEROES Act, the new Democrat stimulus that they're now wanting to push out?
I have. Yes.
This thing. So I'm put it up here for you guys. This is the overall of the HEROES Act here. And I'll go ahead and give you guys an up close.
Now I was gonna say that's too far away for me to read.
I'll give
I have an idea about it.
The honoring our heroes, so providing nearly $1 trillion to state, local, territorial, and tribal governments who desperately need funds to pay for vital workers like first responders, healthcare workers, teachers, even though school's not in, who keep us safe and in danger of losing their jobs. So let's just look at the key point of the dollar value, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what should matter. In essence, one way or another, whether good or bad, that's what should matter to us as a people because it's taxpayer money. Mm-hmm. So you're talking $1 trillion there. Then you have a Heroes Fund for essential workers. Establish $200 billion fund to ensure that essential workers who have risked their lives working during the pandemic receive hazard pay. So a nurse, and I really, it might come off this way, but I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But a nurse is working with sick people. That's what you do all the time.
Even when it's not a pandemic.
Yeah, but how many of those?
And there's way scarier things nurses can catch than COVID.
But how many of those people are really going to get all that money? Honestly,
dude, it's $200 billion. I don't. It doesn't. It
but
doesn't even
the first
matter.
responders and the nurses are not out of work.
Hazard pay is a term used for soldiers in war.
But how many of those people actually will receive a check? It's just like with the people in Texas and a lot of other places that said they haven't received their stimulus check.
A lot of people haven't, and there's a lot of dead people who have.
Right.
So there's something wrong with that, though. I mean, let's.
So here we are. We have the $1 trillion for states, right? That's also for essential worker, right? Then $200 billion. That's also for essential worker.
Right.
$75 billion is going to go for COVID testing. Contact tracing. If you guys have not looked into what their bills are for the contact tracing, you really need to look into this. This is the new digital version of the Patriot Act.
Wow.
So now we finally get down to the brass of the people. So the payment, they want to up the payment of $1,200 per family member up to $6,000 per household, right? So that now we finally got down to the people, right, of what that payment is going to be. Up until that point, at the end of the day, that's either going to politicians or corporations. That's back to what Foshin talked about with the $200 billion. How does that trickle down to a person in their purse? That is a valid point. So going in to support small businesses, also, that's directly people, right? Small business, that's a business owner, and they have direct employees. These are not large corporations. The amount of money set aside for them is $10 billion. $10 billion. And the kicker is emergency grant through the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So that also means that you have to jump some hurdles to not pay this back.
Exactly.
And I'm only going to offer you $10 billion, but what were we? What was the old number? We had $1 trillion for states, $200 billion for hospitals that are already for-profit companies. Let's just throw that out there. The people's taxpayers should not be. If you own a public hospital somehow, I don't know who has a public hospital, if there is such a thing, But if you're a public hospital, you deserve to get that money. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But you're a for-profit hospital. You do not deserve to have a single taxpayer dollar. None. Not one of them. So we have that $1 trillion. We have the $200 billion and the $75 billion for contact tracing. You know, I'll say that we'll give that a 50-50
let me
in my
ask
own
you
personal
this. So,
opinion.
hold on. Let's go back to that one little thing. Contract tracing.
The contact tracing. Which is,
So let's look at that for just a second, because this goes back to losing civil liberties. So they can use your cell phone. Somebody can go to a court and say, I want this guy's cell phone record because I'm going to ping it off and see all the places he went to. Now, they go back.
No, it's not a record. They get real-time data. They're going to be allowed to patch in to real-time data of Bluetooth contact. So right now, all of us that have Bluetooth activated on our phone, and depending on how they write
civil liberties, isn't it? I mean, the
that's why I
government
said
is
this is
spying
Patriot
on
Act
us.
this is a digital Patriot Act,
It's making you safer.
just like Patriot Act, right?
And you know what? And I hate to say this, with that Patriot Act going back with the TSA when they started the TSA up, and nowadays you look at the TSA and what are they doing? They're
Spy on
assaulting. They're assaulting elderly people, making them do strip searches. I mean, what the world? I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, I'm old school or whatever. I'm 49, 48, somewhere in that.
Oh yeah, no, we aren't close to the same age.
Oh,
Let me go back to that.
To go back to
damn you, Corey. Going back to what I'm trying to say is, I mean, that Patriot Act, the digital Patriot Act, that's taking our rights away again.
Yep.
We're sitting there, people are giving up their civil liberties for the government to take care of them. And a lot of people, and this is where a lot of people, like liberals and conservatives, get into it a lot. Well, don't you want to give it up because you want to sit there and be safe, right? And it's like,
How is it keeping me safe? How?
Especially when it's all after so this is a weird thing that like strikes me, and I'll even, in my own personal opinion, I feel about this with even police officers. You're always a responsive service. You don't stop crime. You answer to crime.
front, bingo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way that they're going to, and I'm not taking anything away from police officers. Obviously, they do a role. I'm just saying that people need to kind of look at a realistic perspective of what that thing means. Still, you're using or monitoring all of my digital footprint, right? Through the quote-unquote contact tracing. Right. So you're always watching me, but yet the only time that you're actually going to supposedly help me is after I'm already sick or somebody that's already sick is met to me. I don't need you then. Now I need a doctor. Like, I don't need you.
But that's the civil liberty that we're losing right there, right?
And it's crazy. And they think that makes them safe. You are not safe. The government has no legal obligation to your individual safety. The Supreme Court has already ruled this.
Yes.
But what is that? But hold on. When the government wants to do that, what is that called? Anybody?
Well, I'm going to call it tyranny, but it's not tyranny when people let it happen.
Well, there you go, right there, because a lot of people giving up their civil liberties for all these certain little things. But if you look at it, with government control, it's called socialism, right or wrong.
Right.
And what does socialism do? It always leads to
people getting killed.
Well, communism.
Well, yeah,
tendency
because
on
everybody's money runs out, right?
Right. It's just that's the natural evolution to government when it starts to go that way.
Sure. Things are going to get a lot more expensive.
Right.
So,
And it almost
eventually will.
It almost has to be, right? The more responsibility that it's almost like if you had a never-ending wall plug, right? You need 100 light sockets or wall plugs, and you keep adding cords to it, right? You keep adding cords to it. By cord 20, it's a knotted mess. You don't know what cord is plugged where. If you need to unplug it, you have to trace a line. That's exactly what happens in government when they have to take on more things, because you give them A, A is naturally connected to B, so now they need to take partial of B, and because they took partial of B, they need to take partial of R, and things just get so messed up, right?
What does
Like,
that sound?
Eddie
Hold on.
could
What
talk
does
about
that
the
sound
welfare
like, Corey?
system.
What does
It's-
that sound like to you?
You tell me, what is it?
It sounds like socialism, doesn't it?
Yeah,
not?
right. And the natural progression is communism.
No, that's the whole point right there.
Right.
And that's what we see, what liberals and Democrats are pushing right now. And so many people are giving up their civil liberties because it's the right thing to do because everybody's telling them that it is. It is so sad.
Right.
We're gonna take
Somehow
a-
you're immoral if you don't.
We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we're going to come back for our closing statements.
All right. You guys like my little GIF?
I love it.
The kid? It's
little
baby.
hilarious. If you have little kids, you get to experience these kind of things.
See the face? He's
I'm
like,
glad
"Ooh."
mine aren't that small anymore,
I
though.
know. Foshin makes that face when you show him a beer.
Uh-oh. No, when you show, I thought she was going to say something else.
Thank you, my little nutcracker. You're giving my little secrets away. So we're going to have closing thoughts.
Let's see about calls. If anybody wants to call in, we need to hit some of these comments real fast. Let's see. Let's go up. What do we have? Tony brought up, New York drove out Samaritan's Purse. I didn't. They got rid of? They got rid of them? I don't know.
Well, no, the government took control of every dollar that came in from Samaritan Purse. They controlled the money to where it went and where it goes to.
Stacy hit a great point, said no about New York. Abolish your sanctuary status, become fiscally responsible for things that actually matter, and you'll be just fine. He's always been a slick-talking, corrupt charlatan.
Which one is he talking about, Kumo, or is he talking about
the
the other
governor.
one?
No, the governor.
Okay, sorry.
Danielle said if it's a state-by-state decision, it shouldn't be the federal government's responsibility to bail them out. Right. You had the
Amen.
choice as a
Amen.
state, right? You made your own budget.
We have some very smart viewers.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Tony said these cities are not being held fiscally responsible for their actions and programs. We are scarier to the government. Oh, we are scarier to the government united than just armed. Danielle said, creating more divide between people, essential versus non-essential, employed versus unemployed. That is a great point, going back to the Willie Lynch concept theory.
It's almost like socialism with the Karl Marx, isn't it? Divide the
Right.
people and conquer.
Right.
I mean, that's what, was it Lenin or Karl Marx? Or no, I think it was Lenin that said that United States would destroy itself within, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's, history always repeats itself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
And
interrupt you.
Tony reminded me that he says, I mentioned a Bio Patriot Act last week. Granted, this one is more digital than bio, but he did when we were ending our
that. I
call.
remember that.
Yeah, we were on, wrapping up the last part of our call last week. He did bring that up about that going down. But that's really I think it's it's HR 6666 is actually
Well, those numbers tell you everything.
So
right there.
as we get ready for, if anybody wants to call, you can call in and we'll set up to do our closing statements. And real fast, I will try to create you guys a slide that will allow us to look this thing up real fast. Go ahead. Sherry, start handing us some closing statements.
For me, thanks. It was a great show this week. I'd like to just say that I think it was a lot of good discussion. I like that we discussed the Wisconsin. I want to thank Elizabeth for calling in, discussing what she's going through in Georgia. I agree, and stay strong, my friend. And I think that I'm hoping that we are going to start to see things get a little bit better here very soon.
All right.
All right. I'm going to keep mine simple. This country's fucked.
Oh, man.
Where's that buzzer? Where's that beep?
Right.
Yeah.
Are you going to finish up?
I think that was it.
Basically, you
I
know,
disagree.
with
I told you told me not to interrupt him, but okay.
you know, with people in power like Kumo, you know, he can't be the only one, you know, and that whole what was it, the $1 trillion act, to even waste their time to be even drafted, you know, it's just we need like an entire like revolution.
Yeah.
All right.
You gonna take the last, or take one, Corey, and then I'll take the last one, or which one do you want to do?
Take yours, because I'm gonna give them on my closing statement this bill.
I just look at it like this. I think more Americans. I think we all see the same things. Everybody wants the same things in life. Sometimes they want to live their life, enjoy their life. Everybody wants to make money. I mean, money is the root of all evil, but money exists, so we have to have it. We have to have it to live. I mean, no matter which way you look at it. But if you look at it, all different people have to go through different channels or different things to get where they want to be and happy in life. But sometimes everybody puts money as the first thing of being happy in life. And money doesn't make everybody happy in life. And if you talk to a lot of rich people, and a lot of rich people say, you know what? Money's made me more miserable because everybody spends money. And millionaires, and I hate to say this, millionaire and billionaires, they sit there and they work their butts off for that. A lot of them do. A lot of them went to school. A lot of them went to college. They had to pay, like CEOs, they work 16, 17, 18-hour days to make $30, $40 million. So before you sit there and you say, oh, they're lucky, or they did something, they got lucky, or it's a family thing. No, not everybody comes into that. I mean, there's a few families out there that have people that they leave money to. But there's a lot of hardworking people out there. And if you want to be successful, you have to work hard to be successful. And if you don't work hard to be successful, then don't blame everybody else for your failures. It's just like falling off a horse. You got to get back on the horse again, time and time and time again. And Benjamin Franklin, 1,000 times he failed. And that the first time, he got it right with the light bulb, right? That's just the way life is. Nobody owes you anything. The United States doesn't owe you anything. Nobody owes you anything. And if you're a person out there, you feel like that you've been downtrodden, well, there's a million other people down there that have been downtrodden too. And I think that's just I just wanted to say that for my closing statement. I'm not saying people are lazy. I'm not saying that. I think we got to have more faith in what we do. I think we have to sit there and I think we have to believe in ourselves. It's just like when in love relationships, you got to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And that's just my take on things. Corey, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all right. You're all right. So I'll leave on my note that the bill is HR 6666. You can look it up at congress.gov. Bill, it's the 116th Congress, House Bill 6666. If you Google just H.R.6666, it will come up and you can read the bill. A short is to authorize the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnosed testing for COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units. Those are individual people like DHS that come to your house to bother you about your kids, as necessary at a individual's residences and for other purposes. They do not define what other is. That to me is a problem, and that's given the Secretary of Health and Human Services acting through the director of the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, which is not an elected official, and prevention may award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing to trace and monitor the contact of infected individuals, even though by the end of this, everybody will at least test positive for the antibodies. So you will fall under the letter of the law. And to support quarantine of such contacts. I think I'm going to kind of really end with this. And I was having a conversation with my wife last night, and I kind of came to a conclusion that the Antichrist probably isn't a person. The Antichrist is the relinquishment of worth to yourself. I really think that will be what brings an end to people. You are no longer a human or a part of humanity if your value is not based upon yourself. If your value is based upon your house, your cars, your Twitter feed, your Instagram, that, I believe, is actually the Antichrist. You are anti-creation if everything you put value in is an inanimate object or something that is not tangible. It's not a living person. So learn, love, continue to grow, and embrace your neighbor. Don't fear the people around you over a virus or color of their skin or old versus young. Embrace one another. I guarantee you will always be wealthier in life the more you care about the people around you. And on that, I want to thank everybody once again. Tony, Elizabeth, Eddie, Sherry, it was great to have you. I hope you're here more, not only to keep busting Foshin's balls, but
Thanks.
I like your perspective. I like where you come from in your thoughts and in your principle. Everybody else, take care. And
Can I finish up
yeah,
real quick?
Go.
All right. So in the next week or so, we got Melissa Moore. She's finishing our website up. She's having to redo it. So I want everybody to be able to do that because I want everybody to be able to go to the website because we're going to have the podcast there, and we're going to have more debate questions for people to go there and be able to discuss all this.
All right, let's get some more callers.
And
Go ahead.
like I said before, we promise not to censor you, and we promise you that we will not sell your information like Facebook does. If there's any callers out there, please call us right now. We'll be glad to take your calls. We're going to finish up on phone calls. Corey?
All right, on that. No, I'm pretty good. I just want to commend everybody, the viewers, the ones that stuck in. We know the streams are long, so I just want to give you guys that, and thank you once again.
The sheriff's
We will
office
see you guys next
Maurice
week.
Plumont is one of the
Thank
several
you.
people investigators want to talk to and that he seeks not to be called a suspect at this